All right, that looks a little better. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys what I did. It's November here in the hangar. The doors are closed. It's cold out. It's about 42, 44 in here. I'm gonna show everybody how I did this, and it's kind of a fairly inexpensive way to do this. If you want to insulate your hangar, if you own your hangar, if you own it yourself, you could do it really, really nice. But obviously, I just rent, so you don't want to dump a bunch of money into something that's not yours. But I don't mind spending something on it because I'm going to save on heat, burning kerosene or diesel fuel in the heater, and it's more comfortable in here when you're working. So I don't mind putting something into it. It makes it look nicer. Plus, it will help keep it warmer, which I've noticed a little bit once I finish the ceiling, which I'll show you in a minute. But there's a really inexpensive way you could do all this. And if you see all this on the walls, let me move the camera over. See how I did the walls? I did the outside walls. I did the outside walls. That's facing west. So in the winter, the wind is really hitting that. If the wind is blowing out of the west, it really hits that wall hard. All that is I'll show you. Let me grab a piece. Okay, see, it's just 1-inch foam is all it is. It's just plain old styrofoam. It just comes in 4x8 sheets. It's just foam. It's not the some of the other brand. There's the silver foiled insulation, and there's the pink stuff. The cost of this stuff has just gotten so stupid. It's not even funny. This stuff you could actually buy for about $10 a sheet, which isn't too bad. So I buy little bits at a time. Like I said, it's not my building. So I'm trying to find a semi-inexpensive way to insulate it. A lot of guys out here, even though they don't own the hangars, we just all rent. There are a bunch of hangars out here that people own, but the majority of us all just rent. And the guy across from me, he put up the roll insulation. You just roll it out, but there's no easy way to get that up on the ceiling without it hanging and sagging. That would drive me absolutely crazy. Then you'd have to put bracings up to try and hold it. So I'm going to show you what I did on the ceiling, and so far I think it's working. I'm only going to go so far because I'm experimenting is what I'm doing. But this, just ½ inch, just a piece obviously, but you can buy this up in 4x8 sheets. And, where's it at? I have a roll. Oh, here it is. So I have a roll of tape, so all I did was go along, and you can see behind me, like I said, I put it up on the ceiling, and then I just taped all the seams. You can buy this stuff on Amazon. This is actually made for foam insulation tape. Well, I should say it's insulation tape for like the roll insulation or the foam, the sheeting, and it just sticks really nice. And I did do this while it was still semi-warm out. If it was really like now, it's not too bad here. I turned the heat off, but it's about 40 degrees in here right now. If it's really cold, it might not stick, so you want to do it when it's a little bit warmer out. And I'm going to show you what my experiment is going on here too. And so far it is working, and I'll explain a couple things about it. But you could do your walls really nice like this, fairly inexpensive. The owner of the airport, she happened to be walking her dog by about a week ago, and I'm like, come check this out. She's like, wow, does that look nice? It does. It's nice and clean. It's white when the lights are on. It's more reflective. So what I'm thinking of doing, you can see over on this side, see, it's just all the metal walls over there. That's the other guy's hangar. So that's the inside wall. That's the inside walls of the other guy's hangar. So I might next fall possibly do that. We'll see how it goes. The only problem is I got to figure out a way to stick the insulation to it, because obviously I can't drill holes in the walls. You could drill where the screw holes that are holding it all together. You could replace those, but even like the ceiling, obviously you're not going to screw holes in the roof. And I did talk to the owner, and he said I can do whatever I want. And what I was originally going to do. Well, let me just get back to this really quick. So all I did was I put these sheets up, and there's really no way to attach them to the wall, so they're just sitting up there. And then I foam taped the seams. But if you look up on the ceiling, you can see up there. If you can see it, that might be hard to tell if the camera focus in there. that white tape is holding up this way. I can't point. Anyway, that white tape is holding, it's taped to the beam, to the metal framing of the building, and it is holding. There. So the tape is up against the foam and then through the metal of the building, the beams, and it actually is holding. But I did it when it was warm out. I wouldn't try it when it's cold because it might not grab. So it was semi-warm when I did this. The doors were open, it was warm out, it was beautiful. I miss having the door open. Any warm day we get or sunny day when the wind isn't blowing, fortunately my hangar faces east. So I was out here the other morning and the sun was out, it was cold, but the sun was right there and no wind, it was really nice. So anyways, this worked out really well. So you can see I did the 2 outside walls. I should notice a difference this winter. So that's a really inexpensive way to insulate the hangar that's not yours. And I'm doing little bits at a time. So that's the walls, and it's all done. Everywhere's done. I even did some of the gaps up in the corners. I filled some of the gaps. And I still got to tape down in the back corner over here, but it's ran all the way across. But like I said, when it gets cold out, it's probably not going to stick to the metal, so I'm not even going to mess with it. Now the ceiling, let me show you what I did. Let's point it this way. So you can see there's sheets. You can see where I stopped. And I went all the way across to the back corner. Let me zoom that in. I still got to finish that corner. Where's it? Over there. I still got to finish that corner. I'm waiting for more of the pins. I'm going to show you what I use for the pins to stick it to the ceiling. Because what I was going to try and do. See? What I was going to try and do was, with self-tapping screws, screw furring strips to the beams, and the owner told me I could do it. Use self-tapping screws. I bought some heavy-duty ones to tap into the beams, put the furring strips up, like 1x4s actually. Screw those to the ceiling, and then with insulation nails, or they're called cap nails. I believe that's the right word. They're cap nails. They're plastic caps with a nail on them. Then you can nail the insulation to that. Well, that didn't work. Got these heavy-duty tapping screws, self-tapping screws. They would not bite through those beams. I brought my impact gun out to try and just hammer drill through these beams for the boards. I even tried to drill a few holes first. If you go with a small enough bit in the steel, you can get through it. It would have been just a pain in the ass to keep going to try and get all this done. So the next idea I came up with, this is what helps about being stubborn. It really pays off to be stubborn, which I am. I don't quit until I figure something out. So this didn't work. So on to this step. These, I don't care about that. These are they call them like stick pins, self-sticking pins. They're made for insulation, like for walls. You can find these on Amazon. That's where I found them. They're just called insulation pins, stick pins, whatever you want to call them. They come in all kinds of different lengths. This one is actually too long. This one's 2.5 inches. I had one to see if it would work. But obviously, I don't know if you can see, that's a lot of pins sticking out. So what I did is I got 1.5 I believe, and I found those on Amazon too, and I used those. Now, they do have adhesive that comes off the back and this just sticks. Well, that's not very strong. But what my experiment is, so you peel the paper, this is not even stick anymore. You peel the paper off, then you stick it to a wall, and then you put your insulation on. Let me grab one. So you stick your insulation, your pin to the ceiling, but not this way. I'll show you in a minute. And then there's these caps. See these little metal caps? These go on like that. So once the insulation pokes through it, you put this cap on, it just locks it in place. Well, I'm going to show you what I did. But what wasn't going to work, because here you got a galvanized roof. My experiment, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of it at one time. I want to make sure it doesn't fall down. So, because the temperature's hot, cold, and this building get really hot in the summertime, obviously. and gets really cold in the winter. So what I've done up here, you probably can't see it. Let me zoom in here. Let the camera focus in there. You can see the caps. What I did is I stuck the pins to the ceiling and I experimented. These first few that I did, like over here, I just put up right away. I stuck it to it on a warm day, figuring the roof was warm, it would grab. And it did, but when it got a little bit cold, some of the pieces came down, but then when I pushed them back up, they re-grabbed again. So then I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it and put them up first and let them sit there for a while. So then what I thought, how about if I put them on first and let them sit for a while before I put the insulation. The nice thing about this foam is it's not heavy at all. That's why I'm thinking this is really gonna work. But what I bought was like some 3M double-sided tape, and I'm pull the backing off of this, put the 3M double-sided tape to this, peel that, and then stick that to the roof. That stuff really, really grabs. And I put one up the first time I tried it, I put one on, I couldn't get it off. I had to use a screwdriver to pry it off. But now, a couple of them, and every time I come in here now, I keep hoping to see it's still up there. A couple of them didn't let go, because here again, you got so many different weather changes coming in here. You got, it gets warm, it gets cold, moisture, and then when you pop them back up and push them back on, then it grabbed. So far, they're holding. But what I did learn, and if you read the instructions on that tape, actually, it says the best way to use that tape is to put it on, and the longer the tape is on, whatever, the longer it's going to grab. So what I did is I brought a whole bunch of these pins home in the house, just sat at the kitchen table one afternoon, and I bought 1 inch. You could buy them like 1 inch. It's like 1 inch wide by like 14 feet long or whatever. And I would just stick it to it, cut it, stick it to it, cut it. But then leave them at home for a few days and let the adhesive really grab to the pin. Then I brought them out here. I popped them on the ceiling and I left them. I had to go get a few more pieces, so I put them up on the ceiling. I come out here one afternoon and it was warm out. So it was probably 40, 50 degrees. It was kind of nice out, but the sun was out, which meant the roof was a little warmer. So I put the pins on when it was warm out, and I left it. And I came back the next day, I ran to the store. So I went to Menards, and that's why I buy all my stuff. I'm not getting paid to say that. But I love going to Menards. And you buy this stuff, you get your rebate and all that. So I ran to Menards, got a few more sheets, and put them up. And so far, this piece right here, that piece right here, this one right there, that was the one that I put up after the pins were at home for a couple, 3 or 4 days. So they really, according to the directions, the longer it's on there, the more it cures. This says up to 72 hours. So I did that, come out here, put them up, and then like the next day, I came out with another sheet and I popped it up. The only piece that came off was the corner right there, but that's because the roofing is off just a little bit, so it was pushing on a little bit. So I loosened up the cap, pulled the piece down maybe a 1/16 of an inch, put the cap back on, just made it so it's snug against the roof. Knock on wood, and none of that has come down. Every time I come in here, I'm waiting to, I come in here, first thing I do is I look at the ceiling, make sure it hasn't fallen down. So I don't want to do a whole lot of this yet, just in case it ain't going to work. But I really do think it's going to, because that stuff is really light. And it's really nice and easy to work with. And since you're doing a 4x8 sheet at a time, I put the 4-pin, and you could, if you look at the ceiling, I've got them, you can't really tell from here, but the whole length of the 4x8, or the whole length of the 8-foot, I've got a pin every 2 feet. On the front and on the back, every 2 feet. In the middle, I've only got 4 going down the middle. So I've got 5 on either side, and then 4 going down the middle, which is plenty, because I'm trying to, if I can save on these pins a little bit, why not, right? And as long as it's gonna work. The nice thing about doing it this way too, is if for some reason one of those pins, or a couple of them just let go for whatever reason, you can pop these caps off, pull the insulation down, replace the cap, or replace the pin, and pop it back up and you're done. So it's not like once it's up, you can't ever take it down without destroying it. Just pull the caps off, the piece will slide right off. So it works out really well. You get up on this ladder. I got one of my hangar neighbors here. He lets me use his ladder. We just help each other out. I got something, he borrows it. It was like one nice thing about out here. We all help each other out. But anyways, I get the back pins and the middle pins already set. Get up on the ladder, it's light enough, I push it up against it and just pop it. And when the pin pops through the insulation, put the cap on it, just hold it right in place. And the stuff is so light, it doesn't really fall, which is really nice. So it works out really well. And then come along and put the other side on. Now the front piece, obviously, those pins aren't up yet because you can't put all of them up or you'll never get the insulation straight. You got to have at least the front of it open where there's no pins, so you can push it up against the wall, pop it up, and get the corners all square, and then do the front pieces. But here again, I waited until it was warm out when I went and stuck these up. But they were sitting at home for 3 or 4 days, so that stuff had plenty of time to grab to this. And that 3M double-sided tape, there's even a generic brand of it. It's on Amazon. It's red. It doesn't say 3M on it. I bought both brands, and the other one, which is a little bit cheaper, seems to work just fine. One thing to watch out for: poking your fingers on these. These things are sharp. I've poked my fingers so many times on these pins, putting these caps on. You get blood all over the place. It's just a pain. So you got to be careful you don't poke your fingers on these pins. They are sharp, but it works really nice. It just pops right to that insulation. Put the cap on it, and you're done. So that's my way of insulating the ceiling. The walls are just up. What I did on some of the beams, like if you see across the way here, where those headsets are hanging, you can see that. See how there's a piece of wood going across? I drilled holes in the beams with a real small small drill bit, and then just screwed that board right to the beam, and then I could put nails or whatever, and that's also holding that up against the wall. But the biggest thing is the ceiling, so I'm hoping to get a lot of this. I really think this is going to work. I was going to wait till, I have no patience. I was going to wait till next summer when it got blazing hot out to make sure none of this stuff fell. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's holding pretty well. And it says that tape can withstand pretty high heats, and the roof gets pretty hot in the summertime. So I think it's going to work. I really don't think it's not going to. I'll make another video next summer or next fall on the progress of how this is doing. But this is the easiest and cheapest way to insulate the roof of a building that's not yours. So let me know in the comments if anybody, if this all sounds good to somebody, what they think, any ideas, any suggestions. So far, it's working. I'm using the 1-inch insulation. I'm using the 1.5" pins, not these 2.5. This is just way too long. Not that this won't work. You're just wasting money, and you have all this extra pin sticking out, which you don't need. And you can see there's only maybe a 1/2 inch of pin sticking out once you get the cap on. So, and having the longer would make it harder too when you're trying to push it up and pop it in place. So it works out really nice. And I've got them all butted right up against the corners. And then you can see right here, I ran out of pins, and see that little gap right there. I just ordered another box of pins, so when the pins come, and I've got the piece of insulation cut already. So when the pins come, I'll put the tape on and let them stay home for 3 or 4 days, and maybe a warm afternoon when the sun's out, I'll come out here, pop these pins on. Then the next day, I'll come back and put the insulation on. Because here again, once the pins are on, supposedly the longer they stay, the more they grab. And these things, that tape is really solid. So anyway, that's my story on this whole thing. Any questions or comments, go ahead and ask. Any suggestions, any thoughts, let me know. So that's my idea. And here's how I keep warm in here. Right there, kerosene heater. Although I'm not using kerosene, I'm using diesel fuel. Kerosene's like $6.50 a gallon. Diesel, depending on where you get it, it ranges everywhere. I paid $4.05 a gallon. I filled the can up the other day. And it doesn't even smell in here. The fumes aren't, there's really no fumes at all. Sometimes if it doesn't start and you redo it again, it'll puff out smoke and it smells, but I've had that thing running for hours and there's no smell in here, which is kind of nice. Doesn't burn your eyes or anything. So that kerosene heater does a really nice job. I just turn that on, and I think I've noticed a difference since I put some of this insulation up and since these walls are done, it seems to warm up quicker. I got that thermometer on the wall. It's 40 in here right now. It's dropped a couple of degrees since I turned that off. But that seems to be working. So I'm really curious to see when I get more of these pieces up on the ceiling. And here, like I said, I have no patience. I want to do this. I want to see if it's going to work. So I'm going to put more pins up. I'm going to buy a few more sheets, put them up. I really think it's going to hold. My biggest concern is next summer with the heat, if those pins are going to let go. So if anybody has any thoughts on this or they've done this before, let me know what they think. I just want to make sure it works. I just want to be warm because you're constantly doing stuff, and I'll go through some of these videos on some of the upgrades I've done. I'll explain what I've done. But anyways, that's my story on how to insulate the hangar that's not yours, or a building that's not yours, and it's a pretty inexpensive way to do it. Like I said, any questions, comments, leave them. Subscribe to the channel, thumbs up, whatever, appreciated, and I'll talk to you in the next video. All right, bye.